It's hard to really argue that smartwatches can be a very mixed bag, and Wear OS itself hasn't quite hit the heights that most of us probably would have hoped when it was first reimagined. We'll likely see a resurgence though over the coming years, hopefully as Google and Samsung really do invest in the platform. The first sign of this increased investment though was the Galaxy Watch 4 from late 2021, which we've lived with for an extended period to better understand where it sits, so this is our long-term review of the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4. Thanks for watching 9to5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be notified about all our future uploads. Personally, I love smartwatches with a circular screen, and it's the core reason that the Galaxy Watch 4 even appealed to me from the get-go. There's a slim, flat chassis, and that standard 44mm Watch 4 model is easily the most appealing, at least to me, on paper. The only downside though after extended usage is the fact that that edge bevel can be prone to dings, scrapes and even scuffs, and that softened like edge chassis, or those less sharpened edges, they can catch on pockets and zippers, which kind of in turn can flake the paint and damage that aluminium chassis, which I think is a big shame, as this is a good looking phone. And for that reason I actually picked up a cover after a few weeks of wear for the edges of my Watch 4, and now I think this more standard model, or this plainer model, looks a lot more like the classic version, but without the added benefit of that rotated bezel, but again with less bulk. Adding this extra protection has changed the look and fit, but of course it is entirely optional, but something I think you might want to consider if you want to keep this watch for a long period of time, maybe not damage or scuff it. Samsung's kind of underrated or understated design choices also mean that the Galaxy Watch 4, I think personally, is the perfect accessory to pair with almost all of your wardrobe attire. It feels so much leaner than the chunky, oversized Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, and personally I'm inclined to say that the aesthetic blends into an outfit rather than kind of standing out and demanding its own attention. The stealthy black model, which is the one that I opted for, is at home just anywhere, but the actual strap method used is just one of a few major negatives introduced to the Watch 4's design. To start, the strap itself is made from a rubberized texture, and while that is fine for sporty use and sporty wear, I don't think it's great in every situation. With daily wear and tear, I've also noticed the strap itself has started to kind of crease and stretch, and there's leaving marks and stuff on it when it's fastened. This could be a long-term weak point, but luckily you can replace straps as the lugs are a pretty standard size here. Another thing I don't like is the fixed or kind of blocked off design that prevents the strap from kind of stretching or opening up fully, and this makes it feel more like a bracelet with a fixed clasp. There's also that annoying tuck design that has been used to fully affix the Galaxy Watch to your wrist. I've found that it does nip my skin when I first put the watch on, and then your wrist kind of sometimes can feel squeezed, so what I tend to do is adjust and move the strap kind of down a notch for added comfort, and this has also changed things of how I wear this watch because it does feel a little bit looser than some of the others out there. Those quirks and frustrations aside though, the Galaxy Watch 4 is pretty light and comfortable once it's fitted, and I've been happy to wear this all day no matter the setting. The 44mm model comes with a 1.4 inch display, and I have to say I think it's genuinely superb. It's bright, it's vibrant, and it's pin sharp. At the side the buttons are slim, and they also have a nice satisfying combination of mushy clickiness without feeling cheap even after a lot of usage, and although I do use these input buttons quite infrequently, I have felt them soften up over time and, as I mentioned, prolonged usage, which I think sometimes is a bit of a worry, but it hasn't really deteriorated too much. As the most powerful Wear OS smartwatch currently available, the Galaxy Watch 4 does come with some expectations, but the first time I interacted with the screen, I must admit I was shocked at just how smooth this runs. It continues though to be as smooth and as slick as the day I took it out of the box, and it does to an extent put the likes of the TicWatch Pro 3, which is the top tier Snapdragon 4100 watch, to shame a little bit. It's also the only smartwatch on the market that is currently running Wear OS 3.0, and this is a Samsung specific flavour that fuses One UI atop of an experience that Android fans will likely have become accustomed to in Wear OS. It did take me a little while to get used to where things are and just how to access certain portions. It's a shame that you can't fully reassign the side buttons. That's one thing I did find a bit of a complaint, and I still kind of get frustrated by day to day, as I've kind of found myself using the side buttons less and less as a result. It's also a bit annoying that the Google Assistant is not yet available, so you're not able to long press the home key and launch into anything other than the power menu or Bixby, something that I don't actually use as someone who doesn't use too many Samsung products. The back key can be adjusted to only go back to the previous screen or open your recents menu too. And this is like semi-customization, and while it's better than nothing, I found it more limiting the longer I've actually used this Galaxy Watch 4 day to day, to the point, as I mentioned, I'm less using these buttons less and less as the weeks go by. Samsung's vision of Wear OS is a strange mix, but I must admit it is fairly inoffensive and you do get used to it pretty quickly. I have to say, things such as the settings menu are made simple as well, thanks to small on-screen prompts or hyperlinks at the bottom of each screen, and this makes getting to certain portions and getting to certain sections just that bit easier, and I'd love to see this implemented on more watches, as it really does help with navigation, especially if you do get lost sometimes wondering where the heck is this setting that I want to change. The Exynos W920 that comes inside this watch is fairly capable, and it's probably the best chipset for a smartwatch on the Android side of things as you can find, and I must admit, at performance with that chip and that 1.5GB of RAM is really solid, and other than the slick UI itself, it's one of the first things I noticed when using another Wear OS watch and then coming back here to the Watch 4. While it is a lot better in terms of performance, there are some minor hangs when doing things such as loading or when using the Watch 4 while apps are updating in the background. This is especially noticeable should that battery start to dip below that 20% level, where you can automatically set the battery saver mode, and it's something I have done to get a little bit more lifespan from this watch. Even after around 4 or 5 months of wear, attempting to pair the Galaxy Watch 4 with a non-Samsung phone I still think is sometimes a little bit more difficult than it ought to be, and I hope this does change in future. You can't actually use the dedicated Wear OS app and sync things, as you actually require the Galaxy Wear app and an additional plugin to get things up and running correctly. As I do find myself regularly switching between devices, this poses its own problems, as often the pairing procedure can sometimes fail and would require a full restart of my phone and the watch itself. Sometimes the Galaxy Watch 4 can confirm the pairing procedure has been successful, but my phone lags behind or it's not connected, or the app is still showing account sync in process, which then confuses me even further. I've seen this happen more often than I would care to admit, and as I mentioned, it overcomplicates what should be a fairly seamless and superfluous task. This isn't the only teething problem, as without a Samsung phone as well, you can access a couple of key features, including taking ECG readings. It's a big disappointment for anyone out there with another Android from another manufacturer or another brand, as you can't use certain hardware features that are advertised without having a Samsung branded device. One of the biggest bonuses with the Galaxy Watch 4 is that it takes the fitness tracking capabilities of Wear OS further probably than they have been for a long time, and for most basic health and fitness tracking features, I will say I've found the Watch 4 to be pretty sound. I can't speak too much for the accuracy of workout tracking, but I have found automatic tracking to be quite nice, and it's a feature that I think kicks in intelligently and pretty consistently, at least in my own experience. And to be completely honest, I don't actually like to wear accessories or watches while working out. I do, however, walk quite a bit, and I don't care too much for exact tracking data when I'm walking my dog on a leash, but it is still nice to get an indication of just how much distance has been covered, and I think the Galaxy Watch 4 does a great job of that. Sadly, GPS tracking though isn't perfect when you drill down and kind of get scrutiny or put scrutiny on the data itself. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker for me, but if you want ultra precise tracking for your workouts, runs, cycling, whatever it happens to be, it might be better to look at something a little more dedicated and a little more accurate across the board. As an additional feature though, atop some other capabilities of a normal smartwatch, I think it's good for us regular folk out there. It's also important to note that this is a mass market smartwatch, and although the metrics are not the most accurate, I think they're a pretty solid way to keep track of base health statistics and should always be taken with a grain of salt. Samsung Health as well, I really do like this application. It's one that I've used almost daily since I bought the watch. It's just a great way to track all of your progress and get an overall picture of your health. The graphical UI and snapshot information is neat and easy to digest, but don't expect too much, and I think you'll be fairly happy with the data produced. So in terms of lifespan after extended usage, I think even with updates, it's true that the Galaxy Watch 4 is probably going to be a 1.5 to 2 day wearable for most people out there. I will say in my own experience, I often find myself hitting the charger each morning just to give it a little top up and ensure that I have 80% or so battery level to see me through the busiest of days. The biggest frustration for me though has been charge times. They're slow, but I will say they are pretty manageable, and I do actually like getting notifications on my connected phone to indicate when it's at 100% charge so I can kind of take it off. It is a shame that the Qi wireless charging is or at least for me, has been a finicky mess, and I've only been able to get it working a few times, maybe 5 times total in the 5 or so months I've worn this watch every day. Weirdly, I have found that it seems to work best with reverse wireless charging, be that on the Pixel or more prominently on the Galaxy S21 series. Sure, that magnetic charger that comes in the box, that works just fine, but it is slow as I mentioned, and I prefer setting my watch down on a wireless charger overnight or even in the morning, as I think this just suits the form factor a little bit better than using a cable and a magnetic snap-on attachment. However, as I mentioned, I simply haven't been able to get Qi wireless charging working enough to it be a viable option to charge the Watch 4. If you do have any advice, be sure to let me know down in the comment sections below. I do really want to improve the charging experience with the Watch 4, and that might be my golden ticket. Sadly, at least until we see Google's own Pixel Watch, there has been little competition in the space, and at least as far as it stands right now, the Samsung Galaxy Watch, some 6 months or so after release, is probably the only smartwatch you should even be looking at picking up if you want the full-fat Wear OS 3.0 experience, given that so few devices out there will actually support that update when it arrives later this year. It's just a little disappointing for us, at least. We think that you can access a couple of key selling features without a Samsung smartphone. If you want the ECG option, then it's understandable that you might want to avoid this smartwatch completely unless you want a Galaxy phone. However, we think a saving grace is that the internal hardware is the same, save that battery capacity across different sizes, no matter which version you choose, meaning the day-to-day experience is identical across the lineup, and it's a good day-to-day experience with a lot of updates improving things here. Sadly, there is still no perfect smartwatch for Android users. That said though, the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 remains the closest to come to that for some time, and while it does play nicely with Android for the most part, it still does play a little bit better with a Samsung phone. Sure, it's not a perfect product for everybody, but even with a few flaws, it's hard to argue that this is the best Wear OS watch released to date, and it's well worth a look if you are looking for a brand new wearable. I'd love to hear your thoughts though. Let me know if you've picked up the Galaxy Watch 4 since its launch late last year down in the comments sections below. Let me know how you've been getting on in the interim. But until next time, this is Damien with 95 Google saying thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will speak to you later.